I remember the moment I realized I was completely alone. It wasn't when I officially left the Jehovah's Witnesses. It wasn't even when I stopped going to meetings. It was when my mother, my own mother, walked right past me at the grocery store as if I was a stranger. I had been raised in the faith since birth. My whole world was my family, my congregation, my community. My dad was an elder, my mom pioneered, and my siblings were the perfect JW kids. But I started questioning things in my mid-20s. But once I started digging, I couldn't stop. And then the biggest mistake of all, I told my parents. I thought they'd at least listen. Maybe not agree, but listen. Instead, my father told me that if I walked away, I was no longer his daughter. My mother sobbed like I had just died. And in their minds, I did.
Every day, another story of pain, another life shattered, another ExJW trying to rebuild his or her life. I've watched stories, I've read the pain, I have seen tears, and it breaks my heart every time. And these are stories of ExJWs. So most of the videos that I've been watching are on YouTube, where I've watched a number of stories of ExJWs and the struggles that they've been going through. I've also subscribed to our ExJW Reddit, and almost every day there's a story of somebody struggling to leave the JW. The majority of stories that I've seen on the ExJW Reddit are about people that are actually struggling, wanting to leave, but not knowing how to do it, weighing the cost. These stories actually break my heart every time. If you are in, if you are out, know this, that you are not the only one. I've produced this video to be able to contribute in helping you to come to terms with what you are going through. Either you are considering leaving or you've already left and you are suffering from the consequences of leaving. This video is exactly for you to see what's ahead, to make sense of what you are feeling right now and the pain that you are going through. But most importantly, to give you the strength to move forward, because the truth should never cost you everything. Now, I want to make a disclaimer here. I'm not providing psychological help. If you need psychological help, please contact professionals, those that have been certified to do so. Now, it's important for you to be aware of what you are facing and what you are going to face. And that's why I have done this video to help you come to terms with what you are going through or what you will go through in future. I'll do 3 episodes. The first one is just focusing on a person who is undergoing challenges right now, or you've just left. And then we'll look at another video that will focus on the emotional experiences, emotional turmoil that you may go through, issues of isolation and many others. Then the third part will focus on how to rebuild your life. Now, this is the truth they never tell you. Imagine reaching out to your mother, your father, your childhood best friend, the people who once meant everything to you. You type a message, hit send, and wait. Seconds turn to minutes, minutes to hours, days, but nothing, no reply, no acknowledgement, just silence. And this is what it means to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses. This is what they don't tell you. The moment you step away from the Jehovah's Witnesses, you are no longer a son, you are no longer a daughter, you are no longer a father, you are no longer a friend, and you are no longer a mother. It's all gone, erased, forgotten. And yet somehow you are expected to move on, as if decades of conditioning could just disappear overnight. No, it can't. If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload part 2, you'll receive a notification. One view of my video said, my mother handed me a letter to make it official that I'm no longer her daughter, just like that. Another viewer commented that she's been disfellowshipped and disconnected to the family for the last 50 years. She was actually disfellowshipped at age 18. Let's consider the cost of leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, if you are watching this video, it means you are either considering leaving or you've already left. Alternatively, you are trying to make sense of the aftermath of leaving. Now, I want to assure you that you are not alone. Thousands of people are going through what you are going through, and many more have actually gone through what you are going through right now. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about the immediate changes you will face and the emotional turmoils that no one prepares you for, and the steps that you can take to rebuild your life. Because no matter what they've told you, you are not beyond saving. Let's talk about the pain of losing family and friends. But before that, let's just listen to some quotes. My dad told me I was dead to him. My sister crossed the street when she saw me coming. Another one said, I lost everything in one day. You have to know that shunning is the cruelest punishment that Jehovah's Witnesses inflict on people who leave. The organization calls it an act of love, a way to force someone to come back to the faith. Now they pick isolated cases of few people, very, very few people who were isolated by their family, who were totally shunned by their family members, who went through struggles. And because they reached the end of their road, they decided to come back to their family members and apologize and even thank them that had it not been for this shunning, they would not have come back to Jehovah. Those are very few cases, isolated instances. It is important to know that there are thousands upon thousands of lives that have been shattered, that have been mistreated so much that they don't even think of going back to the truth again. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses call shunning as an act of love, a way to force somebody to come back. There's one thing that you have to understand, including you PMIs and PMOs, whatever acronym you are called by. You have to know that there are many ways of getting into the Jehovah's Witnesses, but there's only one way of getting out, and that is the way of pain, the way of suffering, the way of losing totally everything that you know, your identity, your family, including losing yourself. It pains me that people can suffer so much for a lie. Now, I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, but as I've mentioned in many of my videos, my immediate and closest relative is a Jehovah's Witness, and many other relatives are. And I've seen just how destructive this cult can be to people. And having done more than 100 videos on JW, having watched a lot of videos, having seen the tears, having read the stories on ExJW Reddit of the struggles and the pain that people are going through, I look at how cruel this cult is, which can take everything from you, including your ability to choose. It takes away your identity and gives you a false identity. Let's listen to a justification of how shunning is a loving act.
We can share with you many fine examples of the good that has resulted when a family firmly and loyally upholds Jehovah's decree not to associate with disfellowshipped ones. One father said that when his son began behaving in a way that was unacceptable, his lifestyle had put up a barrier between them. Now, note the father recognized it was his son who had created the barrier, not Jehovah. After some 10 years, the young man cleaned up his life and returned to the congregation, and he admitted, being disfellowship brought me face to face with the consequences of my lifestyle. I needed that sort of discipline. His father added, disfellowshipping is an arrangement that we need, one that helps us live according to Jehovah's standards. In the long run, despite the pain, it brings good results. Had I been tolerant of my son's bad conduct, he would never have recovered. In another case, a sister admitted cutting ourselves off completely from all association with my disfellowship sister tested our loyalty to God's arrangement. It gave us opportunity to show that we really believe that Jehovah's way is best. And her reinstated sister later told her, "If you had viewed the disfellowshipping lightly, I know that I would not have taken steps toward reinstatement as soon as I did." Being totally cut off from loved ones and close contact with the congregation created a strong desire to repent. I realized just how wrong my course was and how serious it was to turn my back on Jehovah. We should think of these comments if ever we are tempted to violate God's command not to associate with disfellowshipped friends or relatives. The article I've quoted from also says, disfellowshipped ones who are no longer members of the congregation may come to realize what they have lost. The bitter fruits of their sinful course, together with the memories of happier days when they enjoyed a good relationship with Jehovah and his people, could bring them to their senses. Well, Jehovah knew what he was doing when he inspired the anointed apostles to write what they did about not having any contact with disfellowshipped wrongdoers. Let's always believe that.
You have to know that in reality, this is actually emotional blackmail. Easy to go in, but very difficult to almost impossible to leave. And if you do, you pay the price. It is meant to break you so that you can come back, and you have to jump over many hurdles to be able to come back. Thankfully that because JW has realized that it's losing members, now it's going back to the people that it discarded to try to raise up numbers that are dwindling. It is designed to break you. It is designed to make you isolated and alone, that you would run back, that you would rather return to control rather than face the world by yourself. One day you have family dinners, sharing text messages, sharing jokes. The next, you don't exist anymore. You could get married, have a child, fall sick, or even die, and they will never know. Or worse, they will know and still refuse to reach out. Let's listen to another example of what you are likely to experience.
I died in my family's eyes, the pain of being shunned.
I remember the moment I realized I was completely alone. It wasn't when I officially left the Jehovah's Witnesses. It wasn't even when I stopped going to meetings. It was when my mother, my own mother, walked right past me at the grocery store as if I was a stranger. I had been raised in the faith since birth. My whole world was my family, my congregation, my community. My dad was an elder, my mom pioneered, and my siblings were the perfect JW kids. But I started questioning things in my mid-20s. At first, it was little doubts. Why does the governing body live in luxury while we're told to struggle? Why are so many prophecies wrong? But once I started digging, I couldn't stop. And then the biggest mistake of all, I told my parents. I thought they'd at least listen. Maybe not agree, but listen. Instead, my father told me that if I walked away, I was no longer his daughter. My mother sobbed like I had just died. And in their minds, I did. When I was officially disfellowshipped, the silence was immediate. No more calls, no more family dinners, no more I love yous. My younger brother blocked me on every platform. My grandmother, who practically raised me, refused to even take my calls. And the hardest part? They didn't even seem sad. It was like I had been erased. The loneliness is the worst. Birthdays come and go, no messages, holidays pass, no invitations. When I got sick last year, I had no one. When I had a major life achievement, I had no one to celebrate with. And the worst part? They think they are the victims. They truly believe they are doing this out of love, that they're protecting me from myself. I've come to accept that I may never hear my mother's voice again, that my father may die believing I'm an evil apostate. And the hardest thing I've had to learn? I can't live my life waiting for them to wake up. I have to find my own family now, my own community, my own people. But the pain never really goes away, never really.
If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload part 2, you'll receive a notification. And this is why so many struggle. Because it's not just about living a religion, it's living your entire life. Now, here is a common mistake that many ExJWs make. They start arguing with their family members to try to convince them that they are in the wrong religion. You need to avoid that. Just think of yourself when you were in the couch before you woke up. How did you react when somebody tried to talk you out of this religion? The solution is that give them time, but don't wait for them. You can't force anyone to see the truth. Instead, focus on building a new support system. That is very, very important for you to take note of. And that is looking for people who love you for who you are, not for what you do or what you believe. What current members of Jehovah's Witnesses don't know is that they have been recruited, promised paradise, threatened with Armageddon, so that they can be used into this machinery, this wealth creation machinery that leaves them poor and discarded at the end for the benefit of the few people at the top of the echelon of this organization. And I believe strongly that these practices are anti-God and anti-Christ, because a person with a heart cannot treat his blood and flesh the way a JW actually do. Now let's talk about the invisible chains that will hold you. Now, even after you leave, the Watchtower stays with you. The fear, the guilt, the nightmares, it doesn't disappear overnight. You were taught when you were young that leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses means distraction. Now, you may intellectually be convinced that there's nothing wrong with what you have done, but subconsciously, those fears are lagging behind deep down your mind. So they've told you, you'll be swallowed up by the world, that you'll never be truly happy. Even the simplest decisions feels overwhelming. So these are the questions that may be going through your mind. Should you celebrate birthdays now? Should you vote? Should you belong to a political party? What if they were right? Suppose Armageddon strikes now. Will I be destroyed? And what if something bad happens to me? What if in the process of life, I end up proving JW right? What is another mistake that ExJWs make? Checking JW content, hoping that that will ease their guilt. Don't do that. You need to give yourself a mental detox. Make sure that no watching JW content for at least 3 months or more. The more you put a distance between yourself and fear, the clearer things will become. In the next episode, I'm going to look at how freedom can be overwhelming. And if you want to watch that, click on this link. If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload part 2, you'll receive a notification.